All right. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother Preacher Moss. Apologies about that. Trying to fix something on my computer. Apologies. Listen, we have a big show that's set up. First of all, I want to give some shouts out. Actually, down in Florida, outside of Gainesville, we had another senseless loss of life. Another ruling, if you will, for stand your ground. You're beginning to see it. Young woman, African American woman, 4 children, murdered. The situation scenario, if you will, was that her children were having a disagreement with a woman who didn't like them playing in the lot beside her apartment building. She got upset. The mother went to confront her about some things that was said, shot the woman through the door. And here we are again with another situation. As opposed to sit up and try and make it political or anything like that, I'm just going to ask everybody, please, please, please make the wall for the family, make the wall for the sister that lost her life. Pray for her for welfare and the welfare of her family here, and pray for her welfare and afterlife. These are the things I think we need to do to keep our hearts from getting hard. That's the top part of it. The other part of it is I want to give another shout out to my nephew, the infamous, the world famous Jordan Taylor, who will be going to Yale University and he will be graduating this Friday. Inshallah, I'll have some pictures for everybody. But let me get to the top of the show, if you will. We have a special guest. And when I say special guest, I know I put in the description that this was something of a conversation, if you will. And the reason I did that is because this man has had numerous lives, I guess we could say. I think he's put himself in a position where he's done great things and he's been able to, I want to say, evolve in so many different areas and be successful in his family life, in his business life, in his spiritual life. You know, I've grown to know him. You guys have grown to know him since we started the Shout Out Show. When you saw an ad for Tarife Attar, that little ad I did, you know, the little funny one about, you know, you don't even stink, that ad. But a lot of people understand that this man has a serious business and he promotes fragrances and oils. And I mean, when they say luxury line, this is a luxury line of oils. And for people who are joining us on the show, we got a special surprise for you. We hope to be able to put some of the oils in your hand, in your possession. So stick with us. We thank you so much. We're going to have roll the show, and don't you move. You're here on the Shout Out Show with Preacher Moss with our special guest, Jordan Richter. We'll be right back. Right, we are getting ourselves together here. So, so I'll just ask everybody to stick with us. Just be patient for a moment. Here we go. So listen, as we start this shout out show segment, we got to make sure that we show the love for everybody that comes on every week to support this project, to support our guests when they come on to support the products, and just the idea of having a shout out show, a community based program where we can talk about some things that are pleasant, some things that are funny, some things that are difficult, some things we're still trying to work out amongst ourselves and individually. So shout out to everybody who's on. Let's go ahead and get them in here. You know, we got some people we haven't seen you since last week. Shout out to Sister Ree. Sister Ree, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings to you and your family, Brother Derek, and your young warrior, Brother Jawan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate your help as always. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Next up. We got Brother Derek Chase in the house. What's going on, beloved? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is a big welcome to our guests. Thank you so much, D. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for being on the. You know, we don't normally get you, brother. So we appreciate you and your lovely queen on the show. Thank you so much, man. And it's a good thing you came on the show. A good day, brother, because we got something for you. You got good timing. All right. Peace and blessings. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brother. Thank you so much for being on the show. One of our day ones. We tell people on the show that he's the only envoy. He's the Canadian envoy to the Shout Out Show. Make sure the quality of the show is good on this side of the border and the other side, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. We appreciate you. Much love, my brother. Hope that you're doing well. Peace and blessings to your family. Next up, Brother Bilal, Salahuddin. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and your queen and your grandbabies, man. Nice to see you, brother. Seems like the week just went so quickly, but happy to see you in the space. God bless you, man. And we hope that you're going to join us. We hope that your queen is there because we got something for you and your queen, inshallah. Stick with us. Stick with us. Don't you move. We got something. I always threaten people with Tarife Attar. Well, I'm gonna make this threat real as soon as I can. All right. So don't move. Thank you so much for coming on. Next up. Oh, what's going on, little brother? Better known as Johnny L. Thomas, but he will always be my little brother JT. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining in. I will see you in Milwaukee, brother. Tomorrow, alhamdulillah, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you and the family, man, and just taking part of this big celebration that we call life. And your baby's going to college, man. I keep telling everybody who wants to listen, my nephew's going to Yale, and I'm very proud of him. And I also tell people he's a hell of a violinist as well. All right, next up, we got Sister Satana Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sister. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for what you do with the production and make sure I stay on top of my game. A lot of people don't realize for me to stay on top of my game, but also get better, it's people like Sister Satana that constantly push me to be creative, to be resourceful, to take some chances, if you will. So I appreciate you, sister. Thank you so much for being on the show. All right. So let's talk about our guests for a minute before we bring them in. And I want to show this little ad, everybody, because I want everybody to know exactly who we are talking about. The gentleman I'm bringing on is Brother Jordan Richter, but I want you to watch this ad. Because when you see the ad, you're gonna, that's because I said this to my mom today, and she was like, I was telling, who's your guest? I said Jordan Richter. I said Tarife Attar, and she was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, that guy. You know, brother, we laugh a lot of times. We laugh about oil, and I give out the Tarife Attar oil all over. And people, you know how you get hood oil? It's somewhere in between like some canola oil and like baby powder, and it just sounds it's not legit, but you buy it because that's part of the masjid economy. Brothers just been, they just mixing oil in the back of their house. You go to New York, they got different kinds. It's not even like the standard oil. They got, what you got? I got that Obama. I'm like, what term? First, second term, baby, second term. And it's not even real oil. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Mark. How you doing? I got a special guest on today, brother. Don't you move. Don't you move. Peace and blessings to your family and to your queen, Tina. But when people talk about oil, it's not this expanded idea, because oil is masjid oil, and then there's oil that comes into the masjid. Let me explain that. There's masjid oil, and then there's oil that comes into the masjid. Now, the oil there's masjid oil doesn't have a commercial. The oil that comes into the masjid means that there's been certain things like quality testing and smelling and texture and test and tariffs, not stuff that you get out of your car. Sister Tana, can you bring me in for the media box, please? All right, so I'm going to show you guys the ad, and we'll be right back.
Tarife Attar. The scent of enlightenment. A gentle reminder that air, water, and fire indeed are life-giving essences. Appreciate the intersection of time and luxury. Magnify your essence. Tarife Attar.
All right. So, brothers and sisters, without further ado, and I saw some people sneak in. Want to give a shout out to my mom, Mary Moss, who had an excellent day before yesterday. Give a shout out to mom. She was actually driving, didn't kill anybody. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We appreciate that. Also, she got her hair done. Alhamdulillah for that, and she didn't kill anybody. So she's gonna give you some love for that. I joke, but it's been a war of attrition, and being able, the blessing, being able to take care of your mom or your loved ones or your parents is something that we should uh, definitely value and be appreciative to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I will definitely be appreciative, even though I make jokes and they're pretty funny. Shout out to my main man, brother Eric. How you doing, beloved? Eric, you tuned into a good day today. I got something for you, fella. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I got something for you, young fella, so stick with us. We have the guest, my main man. Without further ado, Sister Satan, let's go ahead and bring him in. Brother Jordan Richter here on the Shout Out Show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jay Richter.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Man, this has been a long time. This has been a long time coming. So let me just put out right now. Thank you so much for coming on to be a part of the Shout Out Show. I tried to dress this thing up so it looked nice. I'm like, this, my man is a baller, and we spent some time together in a hotel room years ago. I can't remember the name of the event. I know it was in the Bay, and you bought all of these oils. And you're like, preach, try this. Preach, try this. Now, anybody knows, man, that knows me, I love oil. And, I like good oil, though. I've had some mishaps with oil. TSA finds the oil and they bust it. I had a whole thing of frankincense. I had to throw the bag away. So it was too strong. But you've made this transition from a place none of us can really even see. And we're going to talk about that on the show, man. But first and foremost, man, how are you? How's your family? How's your spirit?
Alhamdulillah. I appreciate it. We're doing well. We're doing well.
Okay, man.
Alhamdulillah. How about yourself, family, and everyone?
You know what, man? Allah's God. Keep it simple, Allah's God. Keep it simple.
Absolutely.
So, with any great narrative, we start at the beginning. So I always say, what's the age when you said one day, I want to do something? I want to do something. I feel like I can do some special things.
Probably around like it was the movie John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever.
Really?
Staying alive.
Staying alive. Okay.
I think staying alive is what did it for me. Because it was like, the coolness of kind of, that prospect of doing something cool. I'd say as a little boy, I was like, that was when the idea came, okay, I'm going to do something. I got all into dancing and had some aspirations for acting, but then that wasn't the path I ultimately chose. But yeah, probably around 7 or 8.
Oh, 7 or 8. Yeah. And then you have this move. Tell us about the background. What does the Richter family look like when you're younger?
Yeah, so I grew up in Miami, Florida. Mm-hmm. I was born there and born an only child.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I have a half brother and half sister.
Okay.
But, from my father's previous marriage. Growing up in the 80s in Miami, my mom and dad got caught up with all the Miami Vice type stuff, more of the vices than the Miami part.
I got you.
And so my mom, we had to relocate. Actually, we had to leave because my mom had a pretty bad drug problem. Cocaine was pretty much like the recreation drug during that time, but became more than recreation for my mom. And we moved out of Miami when I was 10, relocated to Southern California.
Hmm.
And I think, like a lot of children who are kind of feeling the pressure from the home drama and a lot of the trauma that just in general, I was desperately looking for ways to vent, ways to cope, ways to find ways to channel some of my angst and anger. And so skateboarding became like my go-to for that, and winded up excelling in that pretty fast and became professional at age 16. And that that's kind of what led me down the path of self-discovery and quote unquote.
Well, let me ask you a question about skateboarding.
Yeah.
You know, when I was young, when I was caught up in the skateboarding craze when it first came out, the magazines, the buying the boards. That's when they actually had skateboard shops. We're talking about in the early '80s. We used to try and do handstands on the skateboards, run in the park cars, stuff like that. Um, OJ wheels, things like this. But it was new and fresh, and then it kind of went away, and then it kind of came back with. It was a lifestyle. Back then, it was like recreation. But can you talk to us about skateboarding as a lifestyle back then?
Yeah, I mean, skateboarding, it was skateboarding. Obviously, I think many people already probably know it sort of evolved from surfing. So
Mm-hmm.
there was this sort of culture of really, which was a sort of an extension of, or part and parcel of, California culture, beach culture. So that was there. But then as skateboarding got more, I guess, um, turned into more of its own industry and more like kind of veered away from the influence of surfing.
Does it become more corporate at this
It,
time, Jordan?
not at this time. There were some elements that were corporate, but this time it was not there actually corporate at all at that time. It was still very young and very innocent and explorative.
Mm-hmm.
So with music, um, music was a big. I mean, you had. I'm not fond of the guy, but you had a guy named was a very famous photographer that named Glenn Friedman, who took a lot of skateboard photos, but he also took a lot of photos of like Beastie Boys and Ice T. And this fusion of his work that he did with presenting hip hop culture and skateboard culture sort of converged, and that was kind of my time. Like I came right after that era where
Mm-hmm.
um, skateboarding was pretty. There was a segment that was very heavily influenced by sort of East and West Coast hip hop music.
I got you. So,
So
so
yeah,
I see this, and so you find this passion, and you're expressing yourself in skateboarding. But now you find yourself a professional skateboarder at 16. Like people aren't professional for a long time, let alone professional at 16. What is that? What is that space like?
yeah. Being pro back then was different than being pro now. So being
Mm-hmm.
pro then was that you had to kind of prove yourself in the contest series,
Mm-hmm.
and when you did that, then you sort of um, you built a name for yourself, and the name itself that you built was supposed to sell the skateboards, hence that they put your name on. So later on, it was a little bit more simpler, where it really just was about you promoting yourself without the contest. So my turning pro is more kind of based off of like contest standings, and then ultimately I rode for one of the biggest companies at the time, so that played a major role as far as giving me a board and whatnot. But it was pretty premature for me, like turning pro at 16. I think others had advised me to wait a little longer, but I had to get out of the house, and I was kind of in a dire situation to try to make something for myself. So I kind of pushed the issue of turning pro so I could sustain my sustain myself.
Yeah. So we have this space. You leave Miami in Southern California.
Yeah.
You redefine or you re-evolve yourself into the space where you're a skater. So take us from 16, the professional skater, to what changes, what brings you to the religion of Islam.
Yeah, so the trauma from my family life with like watching my mom kind of go through her addiction and my father as well, um, it created a lot of anxiety, I think, inside me and a lot of fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think inadvertently through that fear of the unknown, there was a part of me also that was equally curious about life and about my purpose. And so I would travel a lot, obviously with skateboarding, and I was afforded a lot of freedoms. I mean, I was out of the house when I was 14 years old. Technically, I had moved back a couple of times for small stints of time, but then being independent and being able to, have my own money and travel and kind of live on my own terms, uh, gave me a lot of time to inquire and think and ponder. And I think the biggest turning point for me was I had kind of gone down a similar route as my mom, and I got involved with LSD.
Mm.
Um, I took like a lot of LSD at one point. People make fun of me in the industry. They're like, "Oh, Jordan Richter's fried. He became Muslim. He's crazy because he took so much LSD." But I still very much have my my brain and my ability to think critically. But the LSD, definitely, there was a time where I had was not mentally impacted but physically impacted by some of the lifestyle choices it wasn't LSD only, it was a lot of different drugs I was getting into. This is before Islam. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a big scare, and I had spent about 30 days in a psychiatric hospital. I went through a lot of different challenges with manic depression and different things like that. And I think what happened is there was a couple of things that happened. One thing is I met some really good people that cared about me, and
Mm-hmm.
they advised me. There was one brother named Abdul who owned a reggae shop. He was from Kingston, Jamaica, in San Diego, and I would go to visit him, and he would sort of give me like words of advice. He was actually a Muslim, but he never told me he was Muslim. But he had a kufi on. And he was from Jamaica, and he would give me good advice. And there was a couple other brothers, and it wasn't until I saw the movie Malcolm X that was really the sort of the tipping point, of all things. That the actual movie is Spike Lee's movie. Uh,
Did you get a chance to read the book?
Truthfully, I've read parts of the Alex Haley book, but I didn't read through all of it.
Okay.
Regretfully, I mean, I'm just being honest. I read some of it,
You're keeping it real.
but I always say that I always consider, and Allah knows the reality of this. I always consider Malcolm as sort of a spiritual father of mine, you know. And the reason why, because I was serious, I was hardcore. Like I actually bought the How to Eat to Live books, diet book by Elijah Muhammad, and I was following that book, eating once every 24 hours, once every 48 hours. I was buying file call newspapers. I was just searching for myself and identity. And what I saw in Malcolm was this ability to transform oneself through discipline, and that was very attractive to me. So it just so happens that ultimately, like, it was Malcolm and it was the lifestyle, and ultimately it became like Islam was the answer to that big question: how do I change?
So, you know, we talked about this. You come into this space, like I said, you've been through this trauma. You know, how does skateboarding go away? Like I became Muslim, but I held on to stand up. What happened with you and skateboarding? Because there was a divorce there for a minute. It was seen.
Yeah. So um, when I first became Muslim, so there was a couple separations between me and skateboarding. It's a love hate relationship. But the first one was when I became Muslim. I was very impulsive and very serious about my protecting my iman.
Hmm.
I didn't know really like how to navigate or temper my emotions at the time to like separate some of the things I was seeing that were not, frankly, Islamic,
Right.
and then also be able to still sort of maintain my status quo as a professional. So it was hard to reconcile it. I think what I did is I I went to scholarship for answers, and I was like, should I take photos because I heard photos are haram, and at that time, there was that before like social media and before any of what we have now. I mean, there was a time in the early 90s where some scholars said that if you take a photo, you're committing a sin, and if you get your money from that means of that, then that's a problem. And so my whole career is predicated on self promotion and videos and photography, and so I had a really hard time doing that. And I remember I was in UK on a tour, and I had to go shoot photos for some like magazine, and I was a new Muslim just about a year or so into Islam, and I was still touring, and I couldn't bring myself to actually land the trick because I felt so guilty about taking photos. So I'm here, and the guy's just like, "What happened to Jordan Richter? Like he used to be such a great skateboarder. Now he can't even stand on the thing." And it was like a law. It was Allah's way of humbling me. Is how I look back in hindsight, and it was a beautiful thing because it allowed me to step out of it for a time until I could get myself together, and then I would come back eventually into skateboarding and be involved, and then I'd leave again, a couple other times, but that's shorter stints.
But Jason, Jordan, don't move. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come right back.
Yes,
We're
sir.
here on the shout out show with my brother, the owner, entrepreneur, skateboarder elite, my dear brother Jordan Richter, here on the shout out show. We'll be right back. Don't you move. Hey, babies, welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just gotta hear "Don't Get the COVID."
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we're back. Continuing our conversation with Jordan Richter. Jordan, you were telling me about the whole thing with just being humble. You know, you have something that you're extremely good at, you're proficient at, and you're trying to rectify it, resolve it in your heart. I've been there with stand up. I've literally been on stage and thought about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. Um, Not so much to get a laugh, but I just didn't want Allah being mad at me. I didn't want Judgment Day issues. So how do
Yeah.
you resolve that? You know, because you're
Well, I was very young and impressionable, and I didn't really know what was. I was just looking to. I mean, at the end of the day, I was 22 years old. I just met I just came into Islam and met all these, guys with big beards and this sort of angelic, or they presented themselves as having a very angelic presence. And I just was, I wanted Allah. My intention was to get close to my Creator. I didn't
Mhm.
really care what I had to lose or sacrifice in the process, and I don't like say that lightly. I was very, very adamant on whatever I need to do to erase my old self that I despised at the time,
Mhm.
because I had a painful, pretty pain in my own right. I mean, other people have more pain than I have, but from what I experienced of pain, it was pretty painful, and I didn't want to remember it. So it was just ways. It was my way of just sort of stripping it all away. Um, but I still had my friends I missed, and I still obviously loved skateboarding. I just didn't like the habits and the person that it made me in the process.
Man, it's a great conversation. For the shout out show crew, anybody that has questions, feel free to ask questions. Remember, this is a very open format. This isn't my show, it's your show. I just kind of navigate the ship, but you're the wood, you're the water, you're the rudder. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask Brother Jordan, feel free, put them in the comment section, and Sister Satano will float them up and we'll go from there. So Jordan, I'm familiar with your story. We've worked together on different projects. For those that don't know, the ad that you saw, we all worked together. Myself, Jordan, and another brother named Adam Ali over in the UK. The interesting part was none of us were in the same space at the same time as during COVID. So all we really had was that bottle and a lot of imagination, and it came out really well.
Yeah, it was cool.
It came out really well, man. And
Yeah.
but before that, we talked about creative process. So I want to get into creative process. We've talked about skateboarding, that expression. You know, I've always want to ask you, just point blank, how in the world did you get into oils? Like, how does that happen? You got skateboarding over here and oils. It's not like skateboarding, motorcycle, bus, Crisco, oil. You got oil right here, man. And let me explain this also to
Yeah.
people. It's not just the idea of the oil; it's that you make an investment. People make an investment. This is big business. I saw something. I think it's over in Dubai. Like the most expensive bottle of perfume in the world is in Dubai. It's a couple million, like $1.5 million. Is amazing. I don't know who would buy it, but it is what it is. This whole world of perfume and oils. You kind of opened me up to that. Where did you get your start?
When I left skateboarding after I took Shahada, to be honest with you, I needed a way to make money, and I didn't want to get a job, and so I started buying from a good friend of mine. He passed away some years ago. His name's Yahya. He ran a body oil or perfume oil shop in San Diego named Garden of Fragrance. And I heard that I could go there and I could buy incense and I could buy oils and I could sort of hustle on the street. And so that's what I did. I bought a bunch of product from him and I started opening up shops in front of the colleges and selling on the street. It eventually went into the markets, like flea markets. And I went on with that over off and on for probably 15 years, selling that kind of subpar body oil.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I went to India and Pakistan and traveled over to the Gulf countries, I would wind up spending a lot of time in the perfume shops, and I just loved the different types of perfumes and the different types of smells and the different um, ways it made me feel, and it attached me to certain emotions that I enjoyed and I liked, and so I guess I just always kept those around me, and then with Tarife Attar, it was a brainchild that sort of came out around 2017 of me wanting to like get online and have an online presence and um, start building a brand. And so
Mm-hmm.
with where I could actually create a real unique experience for my community and for my customers, and in a way from like, that was a little bit different from what we're kind of used to, with the standard roll-ons. And so, yeah, at least with the Western market.
But to what is what is Tarife Attar and what does it mean?
Tarife Attar means the rare alchemist or rare alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
So Tarif is it's really it's a play on the word Tarif is really comes from Tarifa, which is a city in Spain, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which the book the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is sort of where it originated from, but then that evolved to just the rare alchemist. Another word for alchemist is Attar, and the concept is that every one of us inside us is a rare alchemist. We all have this ability to transform our base heart into a heart of gold. So we all have the ability to, with Allah's help, to make our life and our condition better.
All right. So let me guys show you something. So Tana, can you give me a shot here? I ordered some. Usually, my brother normally sends me oil. He's been sending me oil for years.
Sure.
Let's keep it 100. He's been sending me oil. He's been hooking me up for years. There was also a situation. I always want to thank you in public. There was a good friend of mine who suffered a stroke. Was having a really difficult time in recovery. I was trying to figure out how to help this person, this sister, get the spirits up. I called Brother Jordan. I said, Brother Jordan, I explained it. He said, give me an address, and he sent them. I never even saw the oil, but when I got the call from them, man, they were just so happy. Since then, her mother was returned to Allah. May Allah be pleased with her. Accept the good deeds, forgive her bad deeds. But it was such a lift. You can look at just the packaging of Tarife Attar. This, see, you don't get this kind of packaging outside the masjid. This, this is packaging. It has oils, and here's a killer. You ready? It's wrapped in plastic. Nobody's already cracked it open. Uh, we be putting them in mason jars and everything. Oil in mason jars and Windex containers and all of that.
They're all sealed.
And it says every great adventure begins with a road. And it's fun to talk about this. It's fun to talk about this. Now let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Satana, put the camera on me. Give me the one shot, Satana. What is the stinkiest oil you've ever smelled? I mean, the oil in the middle of June when you just go, damn. What is that oil?
So that would probably be the one that I like the most, which is Shamamatal Amber.
Oh,
It is
okay.
very, but it's sophisticated and stinky, so it's hard to stinky as far as like stinky probably vetiver, probably the Ruchas vetiver, or patchouli. I mean, patchouli is always everyone always knows patchouli as being the stinky oil, but I happen to like patchouli.
What's the significance of
A
oil?
real musk is very stinky, by the way. It's very animalic. It smells almost like poop.
All right.
But
We won't be selling that one.
people find it appealing, I guess.
I mean, when I first got into the religion of Islam and somebody gave me some oil and I put it was a really, really strong musk. I remember coughing like, hey, God. Um, and it was like, yeah. And I was like, but then you get used to it. And, I think, but what's the psychology of smelling good, Jordan? There's something about you take a shower, you take a bath, whatever, you step out, you're clean, but you want to put that oil on. What is the psychology of
I always ponder that. It's interesting. Like I wonder, like what does it? Why do we put fragrance on? Or what's the? Obviously, people immediately think that they put it on to attract someone else, and that
Mhm.
that might be true for a segment of the population. personally, like I have a fragrance that I put on that when I put it on, it almost, if you have a really good fragrance that you love, it almost feels like you're kind of putting a cloak of something on to like to ward off, not ward off evil spirit or something. That's not what I'm saying, but to ward off like it's just a way of like enriching yourself and honoring yourself, I guess, ennobling yourself, being happy with yourself, and you want to like expand on that. You want to, and then obviously the spiritual dimension, which you want the angels to be happy and you want Allah to be pleased. Um, I think that those are the two kind of, for me, I like, it depends on if I feel good about my current situation in life, like I want to like enhance that. And if I feel down, then there might be some oil that I'll go to that might help me pick me up. But
Yeah,
I don't
this is
know.
how I knew your oil was good. Actually, I ordered a box and was giving it to my mom, and I was, my mom has a really, really sensitive olfactory thing going on. If it's too strong, it gives her a headache, that type of stuff. And I gave her a letter, and she's like, "Oh, this is good." I'm like, "What?" You know, and this is from the years when you're young. You had like uh, uh, Brute and Fabergé, and putting it, putting it on, and
Jovan Musk, Jupe.
yeah, you putting on everything, Polo Cologne and all that stuff. And it was funny because I graduated to this whole thing of oil, and it's I guess it gives me a connection to something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It
the
is
idea that
a
the
story.
oil has been sourced. Like, where do you source some of your oil from? Like, I have a friend that would go and buy. He go over countries. He buys stuff for oud and different fragrances. I'm assuming. Do you make those trips as well?
Uh, right now, to be truthful with you, I haven't. All of my contacts I've made is just through online,
Hmm.
and through making connections with people who have reached out to me to kind of ask me if I wanted to purchase from them. So India, I get a good segment of them from a place called Kanoj, which is the perfume capital of India.
Hmm.
Um, National Geographic did a really cool piece on that whole city. Is almost about maybe 250 perfume distillers that actually make the perfume there the old fashioned way. Um, with as with just earth and pots and fire and water. There's also I get a lot from Gulf countries. A lot of
Hmm.
my stuff comes from Kuwait, Mecca, um, that area. Some comes from Indonesia, Thailand. Um, yeah, different parts of India, but that's every now and then there'll be some one-offs like they might come from France or even domestic, some local companies, but not many.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back. Don't you move. We're here on the Shout Out Show with Jordan Richter. Smelling good. We'll be right back.
We just need help.
Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Muslim Family Services at your command. The people who help people have to say, we need your donations, don't delay. We all have struggles from time to time, but leaders dedicated is what you find. Before another person sheds a tear, support Olive Branch, you don't have to fear. Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Action you can see, compassion you can feel. Sing it with me. All right, we're back, man. We're back. So, you know, what I thought was interesting the last time we got together was actually when I was doing my comedy special out in the Bay. We got together. You gave me some fragrances. You hooked your brother up before the show. Thank you again so much. But we were talking about the fact that you had reconstituted the whole idea of skateboarding, but you repackaging it, and now you were teaching. You were running camps. Can you tell us about that? The rebirthing, and the you are now the mentor to young skateboarders in the Northern California area and beyond. What's going on with that?
Yeah, Well, back in I think early 2000, I was working for a consulting company within skateboarding, and they had a kind of a skate park program, and where we would open up parks and we would do programs for kids, and that was sort of my. I also traveled a lot, like to other skateboard camps early on in my career, so I had this background of teaching. But as when I kind of stepped out of the professional career, it was much more easier for me to kind of control my own, my own like way I was represented, and it was easier for me just to, if I wanted to skate, I could skate, but if I wanted to compete, I could compete. But the teaching gave me an ability to connect with kids, and some of them were X Games professionals, some went on to win championships, but I was mostly focused on like city programming, where we still do actually run. We contract with the city and we provide all their skateboarding recreation programming. So what that means is, when a parent wants to decide what they want to enroll their kid in for summer camp, skateboarding is the option that we give them.
Mm.
So I've been doing that. COVID, uh, the gift that keeps on giving, obliterated my business. I had
Mm.
12 locations, and then we had to close almost all of them down. And so we're just kind of, we reopened last year, and then we're just running one program at a
Right.
time. But yeah, I don't teach anymore. I'm don't I might do it like every now and then, just to do it for the love of it, but that's not my. I do have instructors that do teach though. Yeah.
So, so what's the balance for you now? We talked about where you were when you were young, your evolution into skateboarding, finding Islam,
Yeah,
Tarife Attar.
I don't think I have a balance. I just I don't know if I don't know if I even like that idea anymore about trying to find a balance, because I don't think life happens like in reality like that. I think that
Hmm.
we just give time to what we know we need to give time to, as what is a part of our responsibility. And now my responsibility, I've got five kids, and I need to make it happen for them, and I need to build a future for them. And so skateboarding really wasn't something that I felt that could
Hmm.
something at age 48 that I want to like be playing on a skateboard. And it's weird. I always felt like a circus, almost like a circus act with skateboarding, especially in the Muslim community. I always felt like, I would go to like do documentaries with brothers, or I would go to like a masjid to do a talk, and it was always like, "Hey Jordan, can you do some tricks for us?" And I always it always left a really sour taste in my mouth, in full transparency.
No,
So
it's true. I mean, I've walked into spaces. I'm not
yeah,
even performing.
no, that
I'm
one
just
joke.
yeah. Tell us one joke. We got a couple of comments we want to bring up. People have been waiting patiently. This is from Mama Moss, my mother. Uh, are all oils suitable for brothers versus sisters? Up to each individual. Let's see.
I think she means, are they unisex? Are they mostly? Yeah, some of them are for brothers. Some of them mostly are unisex for both.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that are definitely more masculine, than others, but the majority
So
of
that
them are worn by both.
I need to make sure which ones are for the brothers because I don't want to walk in the masjid and get any marriage proposals from dudes. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, someone might be trying to sign off on that nowadays, the way things are going.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation.
That is a whole other conversation.
So what is the business of uh, what is the business of oil and perfume? Because the more I got into it when I was just doing some research, this is a big business. This is not. This is a big business, and there are elite levels to this thing.
You know, we're just starting out. I think like this is what I'm realizing is that 85% of my client base are all non-Muslim.
Say that again.
85% of my client base are all non-Muslims,
Mm-hmm.
and the age range is between 25 and 45, and they buy on Etsy.
Right.
So if you want to like solely market to the Muslim community,
You're gonna go broke.
then you will go broke. So when I created the brand, I didn't have it as like a, I mean, of course, I would love for brothers to, and some do, like, you know, Mahmoud, mashallah, Mahmoud, the professional basketball player.
Mahmoud
Uh,
Abdul Rauf. Yes.
yeah, alhamdulillah, he ordered from us, and I didn't even know until like I found out later.
When
One
did
of
he order from
the
you?
guys will order from us about a month ago or so.
I told him.
Oh, Allah bless you.
I gave him some oil.
Allah bless you.
I gave him some oil,
Oh yeah,
and
he went ahead and ordered. So
he told his wife, and we were together. I was like, take. He's like, no, I ordered my own. I'm like, sure, you ordered
that
your own.
was very validating. And I use that as an example because there's been others that they appreciate the experience, and that's what we do. That's why you do what you do is that you create an experience for people that appreciate it, and not everyone's going to appreciate it. That's fine, um, but the Muslim community was never like the dominant
I understand.
client demographic.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. I think I told you this story before. One of my best experiences with your oil. I was doing notes for a George Lopez show, Beaumont, Texas,
Mm.
and people are waiting for the meet and greet. And had an older security guy, African American brother, maybe 75-ish, 74-ish.
Mashallah.
And I just take the oil out and give myself a little freshen up. You know what I mean? I hit it, and the guy was like, "Man, oh man, what's that?" And I said, "That's that oud, brother." And he wasn't Muslim. He was oud. I was like, "It's oil," and I go into this whole thing. He go, "Man, it sure does smell good." And I'm like, he's meeting me on a level where he should be meeting me, which is it smells good. I don't have to give you all this other stuff. And I think I had maybe this much left in it, which was a lot. For a bottle like this, I had this much left. And the guy kept saying, "Man, it sure does look good, smell good." And I remember I said, "You know what, sir?" He goes, "What?" I said, "Man, you go ahead and take that." And showed him how to put it on. And I was like, "You know what? You do that." That was one of the happiest experiences I had with your oil
Yeah.
outside of wearing it. And I think I called you up and told you, I said, "Man, well, inshallah, we'll get blessings every time he puts it on." But,
Mm.
it's like people identify with it. And of course, I told him I was Muslim and things like that. And, of course, he had some relatives who were Muslim. But it was interesting because it was like a certain type of currency. Can I say that? Like good oil is like currency. Like
Yeah.
I will go to the masjid and pass it out, but you
And
kind of like,
getting that
oh,
oil in the prison is
yeah, I'm like, hey, that oil need to come back around though. Oil disappears on Juma sometimes. But it was just a nice thing, man, to have people oiled up, smelling good, feeling good about smelling good. It's something. Um, it's like a metaphysical type of thing, man. I can't really find the words for it, and I'm trying to do so, but it's just something special about being able to do that.
And
So,
my teacher, his name is Imam Fore Drame. He talks about like what perfume or the scent is connected to knowing, like to become like arif, to become aware of something or to know. And so that's why it could be, not saying it is why, but it could be that's why Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was so fond of perfume,
mhm.
because it had a divine connection. It encourages remembrance of Allah if it's good perfume, because it's sort of this weird thing that happens when you smell something beautiful. It immediately makes you associate it with the creator of that scent,
Right, right.
um, from more visceral.
Well, I mean, like I said, to me, I totally enjoy it. I like the packaging. I like the branding. I've been a long time supporter of it. We talk about it here on the show. Like I said, it's one of my first ads that we ever did. The first one I did, it was kind of funny. It wasn't, and I've written ads for Tarife Attar, but I'm like, I'm a supporter. So we have a couple minutes left for everybody that's on the show. I know we have a lot of folks on that peeped on. What I would like to do is give everybody a bottle of oil. So this is what you're gonna have to do, people, because Brother Jordan and I have to work it out. I'm gonna need you to go to permissibleafter@gmail.com. Again, that's permissibleafter@gmail.com. You're gonna have to do two things. Number one, you're gonna have to go to the Tarife Attar website to choose your oil. Is that right, Jordan?
Yeah. Yep. We have the code, which is a 50% off code. But
It's a 50% off code. I'm gonna pay the other 50%.
yeah,
So
so you
basically,
can,
get it for free. So we
yeah,
need your addresses and your choice of what oil you would like. Let me say it again. We need your addresses and your choice of what oils you would like. And Jordan and I will work out the mailing and things of that, but follow instructions.
yep,
Contact us at permissibleafter@gmail.com. And I'm going to reach out to Mark Canada. Shout out to Mark Canada. I need to give him a holler and Brother Eric Carter. So this is what you do. Everybody go. My brother JT knows about your oil too. I
that's
share
right.
with him all the time. So
That's right.
this is what I'm saying, everybody. Plus my cousin Earl down in Danville, Virginia. Shout out, cuz. What are we gonna do? We're gonna go to permissibleafter@gmail.com. You're going to tell us what oil you like, and you're also gonna give us your address. I'm gonna give everybody a week to get their oil choice down, and from that, we'll go ahead. What's it's like a 25 bottle oil, something like that.
Yeah, well,
It's a pretty
only
good
about,
size
yeah.
bottle.
Yeah, so we have medium bottles are average about 35,
Okay,
$38.
so we're gonna do medium bottles of oil for everybody. Choose your oil, write it down. And here's the deal: they all smell good. Just you don't have the one that smells like poop on the website.
No,
Uh, okay, so all of them smell good. And if you need any advice, let me know, and we'll figure out. If you're a female on the show, there are female segments, female fragrances. Do you have a space on the website for female fragrances?
well, that would be our Imperial Garden
Go
line.
to Imperial Garden, sisters. Go to Imperial Garden.
We do have
Okay.
we do have a Elegant Queen gift set, which is the 10 set like you have, which is that's the king, and we have the queen.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah,
So we're gonna let everybody do that. Jordan, it's been a pleasure, man. We love you. Everybody, I'm telling you where to go to permissibleafter@gmail.com. Brother Richter, thank you so much for your time. You've been
you're welcome.
amazing.
Thank
Continue
you.
to support Tarife Attar.
Thank
Much
you.
love until the next time. Thank you again. I'm your host, Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take care. We'll see you next week. Inshallah.
Sure.